March 17th, 2019. 11:42 p.m. Riverside Medical Center, Jacksonville, Florida. Janelle Parker opens her eyes in a recovery room that feels too quiet, too dim, too wrong. The beeping of her heart monitor sounds irregular, stuttering like it can't find a rhythm. Her mouth is dry. Her head is heavy. But what terrifies her most is the emptiness she feels deep inside her abdomen. Not pain, not soreness, but a hollow absence, like something vital has been carved out and replaced with nothing. She tries to sit up. Her body won't cooperate. Her fingers grip the thin hospital sheets, searching for something solid, something real. The bedside table is bare. No paperwork. No discharge instructions. No folder with her name printed on it. Nothing. Just an empty surface under a flickering fluorescent light that buzzes like a trapped insect. Her eyes drift to the doorway, and that's when she sees him. A man in scrubs standing just outside her room, watching. Not a doctor she recognizes. Not a nurse checking vitals. Just watching. His face is shadowed, his posture too still, too deliberate. When their eyes meet, he doesn't smile. He doesn't nod. He just turns and walks away, his footsteps echoing down a hallway that sounds emptier than any hospital should be at midnight. Something is wrong. Deeply, impossibly wrong. But Janelle doesn't know what yet. And that not knowing is about to destroy her. Let's go back. Back to when she still believed doctors saved lives instead of stealing them. Back to when she thought pain was just pain, not a lie someone planted inside her to justify the unthinkable. Back to the moment she walked into Riverside Medical Center thinking she was doing the responsible thing, taking care of her health, protecting her future, being a good mother. She had no idea she was walking into the beginning of a nightmare that would cost her more than she ever imagined. Janelle Parker is 34 years old, Black, a single mother raising 2 kids on her own in Jacksonville. She survived hurricanes that tore roofs off houses. She survived layoffs that left her scraping together rent with babysitting gigs and double shifts at the hotel downtown. She survived a divorce that nearly stripped her of everything except her sanity and the fierce love she has for her children. Pain. She knows pain. Exhaustion. She wears it like a second skin. But nothing prepared her for the quiet terror that began the day she trusted the wrong man. For months, she'd been feeling off. Fatigue that wouldn't go away no matter how much she slept. A dull, persistent ache in her lower abdomen that felt like something was pressing from the inside out. Not sharp. Not dramatic. Just wrong. She chalked it up to stress, single motherhood, working too hard. But when the ache started keeping her awake at night, when it started making her double over at work, she knew she couldn't ignore it anymore. So she booked an appointment with Dr. Kelvin Rhodes, the man who had delivered both of her children, the man her mother used to call God's hands, because of how many babies he'd brought safely into the world. Dr. Rhodes wasn't just any doctor. He was respected, beloved, the kind of man people in Jacksonville's Black neighborhoods requested by name. He remembered birthdays. He asked about your family. He had a soft voice and gentle hands and a reputation so spotless it gleamed. Janelle had trusted him for years. Her mother trusted him. Her friends trusted him. And when you're a single mother juggling 2 jobs and 2 kids and barely holding it together, trust is everything. Trust is what gets you through the day. Trust is what lets you believe things will be okay. But even the most trusted faces can hide something dark. Something carefully disguised behind warmth and professionalism and a smile that never quite reaches the eyes. Janelle remembers sitting in that waiting room, flipping through outdated magazines, thinking about picking up her kids from school later, thinking about what to make for dinner, thinking about anything except the possibility that her life was about to fall apart. When the nurse called her name, she followed her down a hallway that felt longer than usual, quieter than usual. The walls were painted that sterile hospital beige that's supposed to be calming, but just feels lifeless. The fluorescent lights above hummed too loud. Everything felt slightly off, like a photograph taken at the wrong angle. Dr. Rhodes walked into the exam room with his usual calm presence, but something was different. His eyes carried a heaviness she'd never seen before. He spoke slower than usual, choosing each word like it was fragile, like it might break if he said it too fast. He told her there were abnormalities in her scans. He said her uterus showed signs of advanced tissue scarring. He used words like urgent and immediate intervention and life-threatening complications. His voice carried the kind of authority that made her throat tighten, made her hands go cold, made her forget every question she'd planned to ask. But something didn't sit right. He avoided eye contact in moments when he normally would have looked her straight in the eye. He kept glancing at the clock on the wall, like he was running late for something, like this conversation was an inconvenience. His explanations felt scripted, rehearsed, like lines he'd practiced in his car before walking into the room. He didn't show her the scans. He didn't offer a second opinion. He just told her she needed surgery, and she needed it now. Fear blinded her. Trust guided her. She signed the consent forms without reading every line, without asking enough questions, without knowing she was signing away more than just permission. The day of the surgery arrived too fast. Everything felt rushed, like a train she couldn't get off. When she walked through those hospital doors, the building felt different. The surgical wing was understaffed. The lights were dimmer than they should have been. The halls were too quiet for a Thursday afternoon. The nurse assigned to her seemed anxious, her smile stretched too tight across her face, her hands trembling slightly when she checked Janelle's 4. Dr. Rhodes reassured her that everything would be fine, but his words felt hollow, automatic, like he'd said them 1,000 times before and stopped meaning them somewhere along the way. As they wheeled her down the hallway toward the operating room, Janelle saw them. 2 men standing near the doors. They wore scrubs, but something about them felt wrong. They didn't move like medical staff. They didn't have the hurried efficiency of surgeons or the calm focus of nurses. They just stood there, whispering to each other, not making eye contact with anyone. One of them glanced at her as she passed, and his expression wasn't one of compassion or professionalism. It was cold, calculating, like she wasn't a patient, like she was something else entirely. A chill slid down her spine, but the anesthesia was already creeping in, turning her limbs heavy, her thoughts blurry. She tried to speak, tried to ask who those men were, but her voice came out like air, shapeless and weak. And then the world went black. Hours later, she woke up in that too quiet recovery room. Dr. Rhodes stood by her bed with the same soft expression he always had, the same gentle voice, the same reassuring tone. He told her the surgery went perfectly. He said she'd feel some discomfort, but she was lucky they caught the issue in time. That word, lucky, echoed in her mind long after he left. Lucky, as if being cut open and put back together by a man she trusted was some kind of gift. As if waking up feeling like a stranger in her own body was a blessing. But the questions wouldn't stop. Why was there no paperwork on her bedside table? Why did the nurse refuse to look at her? Why did that man in the hallway watch her like she was a problem he needed to solve? And why did her body feel so hollow, so empty, so wrong? She whispers to the nurse standing by the door. Her voice is weak, barely audible, but the words cut through the silence like a knife. What did you do to me? The nurse freezes. Her hand grips the doorframe. Her eyes widen, just for a second, just long enough for Janelle to see the fear there. And then she walks away without saying a word. If you think you know where this story is going, you don't. Because what happened to Janelle Parker goes deeper than medical malpractice. Deeper than one bad doctor. This is about a system that preys on trust, a network that operates in the shadows, and a truth so horrifying that when you hear it, you'll question every hospital you've ever walked into. Subscribe now before the next twist catches you off guard. And tell me in the comments, have you ever felt like something was wrong but couldn't prove it? Because Janelle's about to find out she was right to be afraid. The nurse's footsteps fade down the hallway, and Janelle is left alone with the beeping monitors and the fluorescent lights and the terrible, gnawing feeling that something inside her has been stolen. She doesn't know what yet, but her body knows. Her body is screaming it. 3 days pass before they discharge her. 3 days of doctors who won't make eye contact, nurses who speak in clipped sentences, and a recovery room that feels more like a cell than a place of healing. When she finally signs the discharge papers, her hand shakes so badly the signature doesn't look like hers. They wheel her to the hospital entrance, help her into her cousin Aisha's car, and send her home with a single bottle of painkillers and instructions so vague they might as well be written in another language. Rest. Hydrate. Follow up in 2 weeks. That's it. No explanation of what they removed. No details about what they found. No reassurance that what she's feeling is normal. Because what she's feeling isn't normal. The first week home is hell. Not the kind of pain you expect after surgery. The manageable, gradually improving kind. This is different. This is deeper. Sharper. Unfamiliar. It radiates from her abdomen in waves that leave her doubled over on the bathroom floor, gasping for air, wondering if something went wrong, if something was left inside her, if she's dying and no one bothered to tell her. She takes the painkillers, but they barely touch it. She tries to sleep, but the pain wakes her every few hours, twisting through her insides like something alive. But the physical pain isn't the worst part. It's everything else. The way her emotions swing violently from one extreme to another without warning. One moment she's standing at the stove making breakfast for her kids, and the next she's sobbing into her hands for no reason she can name. One moment she's calm, and the next she's screaming at her children over something small, something that would never have bothered her before. They look at her with wide, frightened eyes, and she hates herself for it, but she can't stop. Something inside her has shifted. Something fundamental. Like whoever she was before the surgery didn't wake up when she did. And then there are her periods. Or rather, the absence of them. They stop completely. Just gone. Vanished. At first, she thinks maybe it's stress, maybe it's the trauma of the surgery, maybe her body just needs time to adjust. But deep down, in a place she's too terrified to examine closely, she knows. She knows something is gone that shouldn't be. Something permanent. She calls the hospital. The receptionist puts her on hold for 20 minutes before transferring her to a voicemail. She calls again the next day. This time, someone picks up, but when Janelle explains her symptoms, the pain, the emotional chaos, the stopped periods, the woman on the other end sounds bored, dismissive. Post-surgical recovery varies from patient to patient. Have you tried taking ibuprofen? Make sure you're drinking enough water. Janelle wants to scream. She wants to reach through the phone and shake this woman and make her understand that this isn't normal, that something is wrong, that she needs help. But instead, she just says, "Can I speak to Dr. Rhodes?" And the woman pauses, just long enough for Janelle to feel the shift. "Dr. Rhodes is very busy. I'll leave a message for him to call you back." He doesn't call back. Not that day. Not the next. Not the day after that. So she calls again. And again. And again. Each time, she gets a different receptionist, a different excuse. He's in surgery. He's with a patient. He's out of the office. He'll call you when he can. But he never does. The man who delivered her children, who her mother called God's hands, who promised her everything would be fine, has vanished. Or rather, he's avoiding her. And that realization settles into her bones like ice. 2 weeks after the surgery, Janelle starts noticing things. Small things at first. Things she tells herself are just coincidence, just paranoia, just her mind playing tricks on her because she's exhausted and in pain and barely holding it together. But the things keep happening, and they stop feeling random. It starts with phone calls. Late at night, after her kids are asleep. Her phone rings, and when she answers, there's nothing. Just silence. Not the silence of a wrong number or a dropped connection. This is the silence of someone listening. Someone breathing. Someone waiting. She hangs up, and 5 minutes later, it happens again. She stops answering. The calls keep coming. 3 in the morning. 4 in the morning. 5. Always silent. Always listening. Then there's the black SUV. She notices it parked across the street from her apartment building one evening when she's coming home from the grocery store. Tinted windows. Engine running. It's still there an hour later when she looks out her window. It's there the next night too. And the night after that. Different spots on the street, but always within view of her building. Always watching. Her son mentions it at breakfast one morning. He's 8 years old, pouring cereal into a bowl. And he says it so casually it almost doesn't register. "Mom, there was a man standing by our door yesterday." Janelle's hand freezes halfway to her coffee mug. "What man?" He shrugs. "I don't know. When I got home from school, he was just standing there, staring at the door. Then he walked away." Her daughter, 6 years old, chimes in. "I saw him too. He was weird. He didn't smile." Janelle's blood runs cold. Someone was at her door. Someone was watching her children. Someone knows where she lives, where her kids go to school, what time they come home. And the hospital, the place that's supposed to protect people, supposed to heal people, won't even return her calls. That night, she barely sleeps. Every sound in the hallway makes her jump. Every creak of the building settling makes her heart race. She checks the locks on her door 3 times. She peers through the peephole so many times she loses count. The black SUV is parked across the street again. Watching. Waiting. She needs answers. She needs proof that she's not losing her mind. She needs someone to believe her. So she calls her cousin Aisha. Aisha works as an ER nurse in Orlando, 2 hours south. She's seen everything: gunshot wounds, overdoses, car accidents, abuse cases that still haunt her years later. She's tough, sharp, doesn't take anyone's nonsense. And more importantly, she knows how hospitals work. She knows what paperwork should exist. She knows what procedures should be followed. If anyone can help Janelle make sense of this nightmare, it's Aisha. Aisha drives up the next day. Janelle hands her the thin folder of documents the hospital gave her at discharge. Aisha sits at Janelle's kitchen table, flipping through the pages, and her expression changes. The casual confidence she walked in with drains from her face, replaced by something Janelle has never seen before. Confusion. Then disbelief. Then alarm. "Janelle," Aisha says slowly, "where are the rest of the papers?" "That's all they gave me." "No." Aisha shakes her head. "No, this isn't right. Where's the detailed consent form? Where are the postoperative instructions? Where are the lab results from the scans they supposedly did?" Janelle's stomach drops. "I thought that was everything." Aisha spreads the pages across the table like evidence at a crime scene. "This consent form is incomplete. Look, it doesn't specify what procedure was performed. It just says necessary surgical intervention. That's not how it works. They have to list exactly what they're doing, exactly what they're removing, exactly what the risks are. And these signatures," she points to the bottom of the form, "these look rushed. Look at how different the handwriting is between your signature and the witness signature. And where's the surgeon's signature? It should be here, but it's not." Janelle stares at the papers, her vision blurring. What does that mean? It means someone didn't follow protocol. Aisha's voice is tight, controlled, but Janelle can hear the anger underneath. Or worse, someone deliberately left things out. Why would they do that? Aisha doesn't answer right away. She pulls out her phone, scrolls through something, and her face goes pale. "Janelle, have you heard about the lawsuits against Riverside Medical Center?" "What lawsuits?" "2 cases. Both settled quietly. Both involving Black women. Both involving gynecological surgeries that went wrong." Aisha's hands are shaking now. One woman claimed she went in for a routine fibroid removal and woke up with complications she was never warned about. Another woman said her surgery was performed without proper consent. Both cases disappeared from the news within a day. Settlements with NDAs, most likely. The hospital buried them. The room tilts. Janelle grips the edge of the table to steady herself. I think you need to get your full medical file. Right now. Not the discharge summary. The entire file. Every scan, every note, every piece of documentation from the day you walked in to the day you walked out. Janelle calls the hospital that afternoon. She asks for her complete medical records. The woman on the phone sounds irritated. "You'll need to fill out a request form and wait 7 to 10 business days." "I need them now." "That's not how it works." I'm entitled to my own medical records. I'm asking for them. There's a pause. Then the woman says, "Our system is experiencing an outage right now. You'll have to call back." An outage? Technical difficulties. Call back tomorrow. Janelle calls back the next day. Different receptionist. Same excuse. System outage. Try again later. She calls the day after that. The records department is closed for maintenance. She calls again. "You'll need to speak to Dr. Rhodes directly about releasing those files." And just like that, Janelle understands. They're not going to give her the records. They're blocking her. Deliberately. Systematically. Someone at that hospital doesn't want her to see what's in her file. Someone is protecting something. Or someone. Her fear is transforming into something sharper now. Something hotter. Anger. Pure, burning anger. She trusted them. She trusted Dr. Rhodes. She signed their forms and believed their reassurances and let them cut her open. And now they're treating her like she's the problem. Like she's the one being unreasonable. Like she doesn't have the right to know what they did to her own body. That night, her phone rings at 2:47 a.m. She's stopped answering these calls, but tonight something makes her pick up. Maybe it's the anger. Maybe it's the exhaustion. Maybe she just wants to scream at whoever is on the other end. She answers. "Hello." Silence. Then a voice. Male. Low. Calm. Too calm. Just 3 words, spoken slowly, deliberately, like a threat wrapped in velvet. "Stop asking questions." The line goes dead. Janelle sits in the darkness of her bedroom, phone still pressed to her ear, her entire body shaking. Because now she knows. She's not imagining this. She's not paranoid. Someone is watching her. Someone is warning her. Someone wants her to stay quiet. And that means whatever happened in that operating room, whatever Dr. Rhodes did to her, whatever they're hiding in those missing records, it's so bad that they're willing to threaten her to keep it buried. But Janelle Parker didn't survive hurricanes and layoffs and a divorce that nearly destroyed her just to be scared into silence by a phone call. She's going to find out what they took from her. And when she does, she's going to make sure the whole world knows. If someone threatened you like this, would you stay quiet or fight back? Drop your answer in the comments because this story is about to get darker than you can imagine. Subscribe now so you don't miss what Janelle uncovers next. And trust me, you'll wish you were sitting down when you hear it. Aisha knows a doctor in Tampa. Dr. Marcus Okonkwo, Nigerian immigrant, been practicing gynecology for 15 years, has a reputation for being thorough, careful, and most importantly honest. He doesn't work for Riverside Medical Center. He doesn't know Dr. Rhodes. He has no reason to protect anyone or hide anything. Aisha makes the call that morning, explains the situation without giving too many details, and Dr. Okonkwo agrees to see Janelle that same week. "Bring whatever paperwork you have," he tells Aisha. "I'll see what I can figure out." The drive to Tampa feels endless. Janelle sits in the passenger seat of Aisha's car, staring out the window at the flat Florida landscape rolling past. Palm trees, strip malls, billboards advertising injury lawyers and theme parks. Her hands won't stop shaking. She presses them between her knees, but it doesn't help. Every few miles, Aisha glances over at her, concern written across her face, but she doesn't say anything. What is there to say? They both know something terrible happened. They just don't know how terrible yet. Dr. Okonkwo's office is in a small medical plaza off the highway. Clean. Modest. Nothing like the sprawling complex of Riverside Medical Center. The waiting room has maybe 6 chairs, a fish tank in the corner, magazines that are actually current. When the nurse calls Janelle's name, her voice is kind, warm. Janelle follows her back to an exam room that smells faintly of lavender, and for the first time in weeks, she doesn't feel like she's walking into a trap. Dr. Okonkwo walks in 5 minutes later. He's tall, maybe in his late 40s, with graying hair at his temples and eyes that actually look at her. Not through her, not past her, but at her. Like she's a person, not a problem. He shakes her hand, his grip firm but gentle, and sits down across from her. "Tell me what happened," he says simply. No clipboard. No rushing. Just listening. So she tells him. Everything. The appointment with Dr. Rhodes. The vague diagnosis. The urgent surgery. The missing paperwork. The pain that won't stop. The periods that vanished. The phone calls. The black SUV. The threats. She tells him everything, and he doesn't interrupt once. He just nods, his expression growing more serious with each detail. When she finishes, he's quiet for a long moment. Then he says, I'm going to examine you. I'm going to order scans. And I'm going to figure out what happened. But I need you to prepare yourself, because based on what you're describing, I don't think this was a routine procedure. The exam is thorough. More thorough than anything Dr. Rhodes ever did. Dr. Okonkwo is methodical, careful, explaining each step before he does it. He orders an ultrasound, a CT scan, blood work. He reviews the incomplete paperwork Aisha brought, and Janelle watches his face shift from professional neutrality to barely contained shock. He doesn't say anything, but she sees it. The tightness around his eyes. The way his jaw clenches. The way he sets the papers down and takes a breath before picking them up again. The scans take an hour. Janelle lies on the table in the imaging room, staring at the ceiling tiles, trying not to think about what they might find. Trying not to imagine the worst. But the worst keeps creeping in anyway, filling her mind with images she can't push away. When it's over, Dr. Okonkwo asks her to wait in his office. Not the exam room. His actual office. That's when Janelle knows. That's when the cold fear that's been sitting in her chest for weeks crystallizes into something sharp and unbearable. You don't take a patient to your private office to deliver good news. She sits in the chair across from his desk. Aisha sits beside her, holding her hand. They wait. 5 minutes. 10. 15. When Dr. Okonkwo finally walks in, he's carrying a folder, and his face looks like he's aged 10 years since she last saw him. He sits down heavily, sets the folder on the desk, and for a long moment he doesn't speak. He just looks at her, and in his eyes, Janelle sees something that terrifies her more than any threat, any phone call, any black SUV ever could. Pity. Janelle, he says quietly, I need you to understand that what I'm about to tell you is going to be difficult. I'm going to explain everything as clearly as I can, but if you need me to stop, if you need time, you tell me. Okay. She nods, but she can't speak. Her throat has closed up. Dr. Okonkwo opens the folder. Inside are scan images, black and white pictures of her insides that she doesn't understand but knows are wrong. He points to one. This is a normal uterus, he says, showing her a comparison image. And this, he slides another image toward her. This is what your scan shows. Janelle stares at the image. There's nothing there. Just an empty space where something should be. Your uterus is gone, Dr. Okonkwo says, and even though she suspected it, even though some part of her has known for weeks, hearing the words out loud makes the room tilt. It's been completely removed. A full hysterectomy. The words don't make sense. They're in English, but they sound foreign, impossible. But Dr. Rhodes said, he said it was just scarring, he said. There was no scarring, Dr. Okonkwo interrupts gently. Or if there was, it wasn't severe enough to warrant removal. Janelle, I've looked at your incomplete records. I've looked at your scans. And I've examined you. Based on what I'm seeing, you didn't need this surgery. The room is spinning now. Aisha's hand tightens around hers, but Janelle barely feels it. Then why would he? Dr. Okonkwo leans forward, and his voice drops. The surgical markers I'm seeing, the way the procedure was performed, it doesn't look like standard medical treatment. It looks like extraction. Deliberate, careful extraction. The kind of technique used when the goal isn't to treat a patient, but to preserve the organ being removed. Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Janelle's brain is trying to process what he's saying, but it won't connect. It won't make sense. I don't understand. Janelle, Dr. Okonkwo says, and now his voice is shaking slightly, like he's angry, like he's horrified, like he wishes he didn't have to say what he's about to say. I think your surgery was performed to harvest your uterus. Not to save your life. To take it. And that's when Janelle breaks. It starts as a sound she's never made before. Something between a scream and a sob, ripped from somewhere deep inside her chest. She doubles over, her hands clutching her abdomen, feeling the emptiness there, the hole where something vital used to be. Aisha wraps her arms around her, but Janelle can't stop. She's screaming into her hands, gasping for air, her entire body convulsing with the weight of what she's just learned. They didn't just remove her womb. They stole it. They cut her open, took something that belonged to her, something that made her who she was, and they stole it like she was nothing. Like her body was something they could raid and plunder and discard. All those years trusting Dr. Rhodes. All those times she sat in his office, vulnerable and afraid, believing he had her best interests at heart. All those moments she let him touch her, examine her, make decisions about her body because she thought he was safe. And he was never safe. He was a predator, a thief, a monster wearing the face of someone respectable. The flashbacks hit her in waves. Dr. Rhodes delivering her first child, smiling at her, telling her she did great. Dr. Rhodes at her daughter's birth, his hands gentle, his voice soothing. Dr. Rhodes at every checkup, every appointment, every moment she needed medical care. And underneath it all, underneath the kindness and the professionalism and the trust, he was planning this. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for her to be vulnerable enough, desperate enough, scared enough to let him do whatever he wanted. She trusted him. And he butchered her. Dr. Okonkwo waits until her sobbing slows before he speaks again. His voice is steady, but there's an edge to it now. Something hard. Something furious. Janelle, what was done to you wasn't just malpractice. It wasn't just negligence. This was deliberate. Calculated. And I need you to hear this next part, because it's important. He pauses, making sure she's looking at him. It wasn't just removed. It was taken. Janelle lifts her head, tears streaming down her face. What does that mean? It means someone wanted your uterus. Specifically. And they were willing to lie to you, manipulate you, violate you to get it. Aisha's voice cuts through the room, sharp and cold. Are you saying what I think you're saying? Dr. Okonkwo nods slowly. There's a black market for female reproductive organs. Illegal surrogacy networks overseas. Underground fertility operations. Women who can't conceive on their own, but have the money to pay for alternatives. They need wombs. They need ovarian tissue. They need healthy reproductive systems. And in some cases, doctors are willing to supply them. The words hang in the air like poison. Janelle can't breathe. Can't think. Can't process the enormity of what she's hearing. Her womb is somewhere out there. In someone else. Used by someone else. Stolen from her body and sold like a commodity, like a piece of meat, like she didn't matter at all. This is happening? Aisha's voice is shaking with rage. This is real. It's unconfirmed, Dr. Okonkwo says carefully. But there have been increasing reports. Mostly in states with less oversight. Florida is one of them. Women who go in for routine procedures and come out with complications they can't explain. Women whose records mysteriously disappear. Women who are told they're imagining things when they ask questions. The cases never make it to trial. They're settled quietly, buried under NDAs, erased from public record. Janelle's mind is racing now, connecting pieces she didn't want to connect. The lawsuits Aisha mentioned. The other women. Exactly, Dr. Okonkwo says. You're not the first. And if we don't stop this, you won't be the last. But how? Janelle's voice cracks. How does a doctor just do this? Because he's not working alone. Dr. Okonkwo's face is grim. An operation like this requires infrastructure. Buyers. Transporters. People to falsify records. People to intimidate victims into staying quiet. People higher up in the hospital administration who can make problems disappear. Dr. Rhodes is a surgeon, but he's not the one running this. He's a tool. A very skilled, very trusted tool. But someone else is pulling the strings. Janelle feels the walls closing in. The phone calls. The black SUV. The threats. It's not just one corrupt doctor. It's a network, a system, and she's already seen what they're willing to do to keep their secrets buried. That afternoon, back in Jacksonville, Janelle notices the black SUV parked outside her building again. She doesn't run. She doesn't hide. She stands at her window and stares at it, and this time, she sees the driver. A man in sunglasses, sitting behind the wheel, not even pretending he's not watching her. Her phone buzzes. Unknown number. She doesn't answer. It buzzes again. And again. 6 times in 10 minutes. When she goes down to check her mailbox, she finds the lock broken. Someone pried it open. Her mail is scattered inside, rifled through, like someone was searching for something. A bill. A bank statement. Anything that might tell them more about her. That evening, her daughter's school calls. The principal's voice is cautious, almost apologetic. Ms. Parker, I wanted to let you know, a man came by the office today asking questions about your children. He said he was a family friend, but when we asked for ID, he left. I thought you should know. Janelle's blood turns to ice. They're not just watching her anymore. They're closing in. They're studying her routines, her vulnerabilities, her children. They're making sure she knows they can reach her anywhere, anytime. Aisha comes over that night, and they sit at the kitchen table, going through the folder of paperwork one more time. They've looked at these pages a dozen times, but Aisha is convinced there's something they missed. She spreads the documents across the table, and that's when she sees it. A single page, tucked behind the consent form, barely visible. A surgical log entry. Time-stamped. Dated. But the time is wrong. The surgery supposedly started at 2 p.m., but this log says 1:15 p.m. And at the bottom, there's a signature. Not Dr. Rhodes' signature. Someone else's. A name Janelle doesn't recognize. Aisha's hands start shaking. She looks up at Janelle, her eyes wide with horror. Janelle, she whispers, if this log is accurate, someone else was in that operating room. Someone who shouldn't have been there. Janelle stares at the signature, and the floor drops out from under her. Because if there was someone else in the room, someone whose name isn't on any of the official paperwork, someone who signed this log and then disappeared from every other record, then Dr. Rhodes wasn't just stealing organs. He was working with someone. Someone powerful enough to erase themselves from the paper trail. Someone who wanted to stay hidden. And that someone is still out there. So here's what I need to know. If you found out a doctor you trusted for years had been planning to betray you all along, would you fight back or disappear? Drop your answer in the comments because Janelle's about to do something that will put her entire family at risk. Subscribe now because what happened next will shock you. You'll want to see who that signature belongs to and what happens when Janelle finally confronts the truth. Janelle walks into Riverside Medical Center on a Tuesday morning, and she knows before she even reaches the front desk that this is a mistake. The security guard at the entrance watches her too closely. The receptionist's smile is too tight. The air feels wrong, charged with something hostile and defensive, like the building itself knows why she's here and is preparing to reject her. But she's done being afraid. She's done being quiet. Someone stole her womb, falsified her records, and threatened her children. If they think she's going to disappear like the other women, they're wrong. She approaches the front desk and says, I need to speak to someone in administration about my medical records. The receptionist, a woman in her 50s with reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck, types something into her computer without looking up. Do you have an appointment? No. But I have questions about a surgery performed on me 6 weeks ago. Questions that nobody has answered. The receptionist finally looks at her, and there's something in her eyes, recognition maybe or warning. Name, Janelle Parker. More typing. A pause. The receptionist picks up the phone, speaks quietly into it, then sets it down. Someone will be with you shortly. Please have a seat. Janelle doesn't sit. She stands near the desk, arms crossed, watching every person who walks past. A nurse pushing a wheelchair. A doctor with a clipboard. An elderly couple holding hands. Normal people doing normal things in a place that pretends to heal but destroys instead. 15 minutes pass. Then a man appears, mid-40s, gray suit, thinning hair, the kind of face you forget 5 minutes after meeting. He extends his hand. Ms. Parker? I'm Gerald Simmons, Director of Patient Services. Why don't we step into my office? His office is on the 2nd floor, down a hallway that smells like industrial cleaner and stale coffee. It's small, windowless, dominated by a desk covered in folders and a computer screen angled away from where she sits. He closes the door behind them, and the click of the lock feels deliberate. So, he says, settling into his chair with the kind of ease that comes from years of dealing with complaints. What can I help you with today? Janelle pulls the incomplete paperwork from her bag and sets it on his desk. I had surgery here 6 weeks ago. Dr. Kelvin Rhodes performed a procedure he told me was urgent. But I never received complete records. I never received postoperative instructions. And when I went to another doctor for a second opinion, I found out my entire uterus was removed. Something Dr. Rhodes never told me he was going to do. Simmons picks up the papers, flips through them slowly, his expression unchanging. I see. And you're saying you weren't informed of the procedure. I was told I had tissue scarring. I was told it was urgent. I was never told he was removing my womb. Simmons sets the papers down. Ms. Parker, I've pulled your file. According to our records, you were fully informed of the procedure. You signed a consent form acknowledging the risks and the nature of the surgery. That consent form is incomplete. It doesn't specify what was being removed. It says necessary surgical intervention, which is standard language when the full extent of the issue can't be determined until the surgeon is in the operating room. Dr. Rhodes made the decision based on what he found during surgery. It's called surgical discretion, and it's both legal and standard practice. Janelle's hands clench into fists. He didn't find anything. Another doctor reviewed my case and said there was no medical reason for removal. Simmons leans back in his chair, folding his hands across his stomach. With all due respect, Ms. Parker, second opinions can sometimes misinterpret the original surgeons. Findings. Dr. Rhodes is one of our most respected physicians. He's delivered hundreds of babies, performed thousands of surgeries. His judgment is impeccable. His judgment is criminal. The temperature in the room drops. Simmons' expression hardens. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. Do you have proof? I have incomplete records. I have a surgical log with the wrong timestamp and a signature that isn't his. I have threats. I have a black SUV following me. I have. Ms. Parker. Simmons holds up a hand. I understand you're upset. Surgery is traumatic. Recovery is difficult. But what you're describing sounds like stress, possibly even some emotional instability stemming from the procedure. It's not uncommon for patients to experience confusion or paranoia after major surgery. And there it is. The gaslighting. The subtle suggestion that she's the problem, that her mind is unreliable, that her reality can't be trusted. She's heard this before from every receptionist who brushed her off, every voicemail that went unreturned, every moment the hospital has treated her like an inconvenience instead of a victim. I'm not confused, Janelle says, her voice shaking with barely controlled rage. I'm not paranoid. Someone cut me open and took something that didn't need to be taken. And you're sitting here telling me I imagined it. Simmons reaches into a drawer and pulls out another folder, thicker than the one she brought, more official looking. He opens it and slides several pages toward her. These are your complete surgical logs. As you can see, everything was documented properly. Dr. Rhodes performed a medically necessary hysterectomy due to severe uterine abnormalities discovered during the procedure. You were informed. You consented. And the surgery was successful. Janelle stares at the pages. They're different from the ones she has. More detailed. More complete. And completely fabricated. She knows it. She can feel it in her bones. These aren't the real records. These are the cleaned up version. The ones they present when someone starts asking too many questions. This is fake, she says. Excuse me? These records are fake. Someone altered them. Simmons' face flushes. Ms. Parker, I'm going to ask you to be very careful about the accusations you're making. Falsifying medical records is a federal crime. If you continue to make baseless claims about this hospital and its staff, we will have no choice but to involve our legal team. Then involve them. I want a lawyer. I want an investigation. I want what you want, Simmons interrupts, his voice cold now, stripped of any pretense of sympathy, is to accept that a difficult but necessary procedure was performed to save your health. What you want is to move forward with your life and stop harassing our staff with conspiracy theories. Janelle stands up, her chair scraping against the floor. I know what happened to me. I know Dr. Rhodes is a liar. And I know this hospital is protecting him. Simmons presses a button on his desk phone. Security to my office, please. You're kicking me out? I'm ensuring the safety of our staff and patients. You're clearly experiencing some distress, and I think it's best if you leave. 2 security guards appear in the doorway within seconds. Too quickly, like they were waiting just outside. One of them is the same guard who watched her too closely at the entrance. They don't touch her, but they don't need to. Their presence is enough. The message is clear. Leave now or we'll make you leave. Janelle gathers her papers with shaking hands. She looks at Simmons one last time, and she sees it in his eyes. He knows. He knows exactly what happened to her, and he doesn't care. Or worse, he's part of it. She walks out of the building with the security guards flanking her like she's a criminal. Other patients stare. Staff members whisper. And as the automatic doors close behind her, she feels the full weight of what she's up against. This isn't just one corrupt doctor. This is an entire institution built on silence, on buried complaints, on erased women. And they've had years of practice making problems disappear. That night, Janelle can't sleep. She lies in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to every sound in the building. The hum of the refrigerator. The distant sound of a car alarm. The creak of footsteps in the apartment above hers. Normal sounds that feel sinister now, loaded with threat. Around 3 a.m., her phone rings. She doesn't answer. It rings again. And again. 5 times before it finally stops. At 4 a.m., she hears something else. A sound that doesn't belong. She sits up, heart pounding, and listens. There it is again, a faint scraping noise coming from her bedroom window. She gets out of bed slowly, moving toward the window, and that's when she sees it. The window is open. Just a crack. Just enough to let in the humid Florida air and the distant sound of traffic. But she knows she locked it before bed. She always locks it. Someone was here. Or someone is still here. She checks on her children, both asleep, safe, undisturbed. She checks every room, every closet, every corner of the apartment. Nothing. But the window is still open, and that's all the proof she needs. They're not just watching her anymore. They're inside her space. Inside her home. Making sure she knows they can reach her whenever they want. Her phone buzzes. A text from Aisha. I found something worse. Call me now. Janelle's hands are shaking so badly, she can barely hold the phone. She steps into the bathroom, closes the door, and calls. Aisha answers on the first ring. Janelle, are you alone? Yes. What did you find? I did some digging. Called in some favors with people I know in hospital administration at other facilities. And Janelle, Aisha's voice cracks. There are more surgical logs. Not just yours. I found records of at least 4 other women who had procedures with Dr. Rhodes in the past 3 years. All gynecological. All marked as urgent intervention. And all of them have the same inconsistencies. Missing details. Wrong timestamps. Signatures that don't match. Janelle leans against the bathroom sink, her legs threatening to give out. 4 other women. That's just what I found in the last 2 hours. There could be more. And Janelle, there's something else. I looked into Dr. Rhodes' financial records, the public ones at least. He's been receiving payments. Large payments. Tens of thousands of dollars at a time, routed through shell accounts registered in the Cayman Islands. What kind of payments? The records list them as consulting fees, but there's no indication of what he's consulting on. The pattern matches known trafficking operations. Money comes in from offshore accounts, gets cleaned through a few domestic transactions, and ends up in his personal account. He's been doing this for years. Janelle's vision blurs. She's going to be sick. How is this possible? How does someone just... Because he's not working alone, Aisha interrupts. These shell accounts, they're connected to other names. Other doctors. Hospital administrators. People in positions of power. This isn't one man, Janelle. This is a network. Then how do we stop it? Aisha is quiet for a long moment. I don't know. But I found something else. Something that scared me enough to call you at 4 a.m. Dr. Rhodes has been taking charity trips overseas for the past decade. Medical missions to countries with struggling healthcare systems. Kenya, Cambodia, Guatemala. He's praised for it. Gets awards. Gets his picture in the paper. But I looked at the dates of those trips. And they coincide perfectly with the emergence of illegal surrogacy rings in those exact countries. Places where wealthy women from the US and Europe go to have babies using wombs that don't belong to them. Places where the authorities don't ask too many questions because the money's too good. Janelle feels like she's falling. Like the floor has opened up beneath her, and she's plummeting into something dark and endless. You're saying he's been supplying them. I'm saying his delicate surgical technique isn't just for delivering babies. It's for extracting organs intact. Perfectly preserved. Ready for transplant or surrogacy. And he's been praised for it, Janelle. Praised. People think he's a hero. The bathroom wall's close in. Janelle slides down to the floor, her back against the bathtub, phone pressed to her ear. Where is my womb right now? I don't know. Who has it? I don't know. How many other women? Janelle. Aisha's voice is urgent now, almost frantic. I need you to listen to me. I found one more thing. A scheduled surgery in Dr. Rhodes' calendar for next week. Another urgent intervention. Another black woman in her 30s. Another incomplete consent form. They didn't just take your womb, Janelle. They're planning another operation. The phone slips from Janelle's hand, clattering against the tile floor. She sits there in the darkness, in the silence, and realizes the full scope of what she's uncovered. This isn't just about her. It's about every woman who trusted Dr. Rhodes. Every woman who walked into Riverside Medical Center believing she was safe. Every woman whose body was treated like a commodity, like something to be harvested and sold to the highest bidder. And somewhere out there, another woman is about to walk into that same trap. Another woman who doesn't know, who trusts, who believes she's doing the right thing. Unless Janelle stops it. But stopping it means going up against a network that's already shown they're willing to threaten her children. A network with money, power, and the ability to make people disappear. A network that's been operating in the shadows for years, protected by institutions that are supposed to protect patients instead. The question isn't whether she's brave enough to fight back. The question is whether she'll survive it. Here's what I need to know. If you discovered a doctor was about to do to someone else what they did to you, would you risk everything to stop them, or would you stay silent to protect your family? Comment your answer, because what Janelle does next will determine whether she becomes a hero or the next victim. Subscribe before the final revelation drops. You're not going to believe how far this conspiracy goes. The envelope appears on Thursday morning, slipped under Janelle's apartment door sometime between midnight and dawn. No stamp. No return address. Just her name written in block letters across the front. The handwriting deliberately anonymous, like whoever wrote it didn't want to leave any trace of themselves behind. Janelle stands in her doorway, coffee mug in hand, staring down at it. She knows before she opens it that whatever's inside will change everything. She can feel it in the weight of the paper, in the silence of the hallway, in the way her hands start shaking before she even bends down to pick it up. She carries it to the kitchen table, sets down her coffee, and tears it open. Inside is a single photograph. Color. Recent. Taken from across the street, zoomed in just enough to capture every detail. Her children. Walking home from school. Backpacks on their shoulders. Her son holding her daughter's hand. They're smiling, laughing about something, completely unaware that someone is watching them, photographing them, studying them. And written across the bottom of the photo in the same block letters: "Stay quiet." Janelle's legs give out. She collapses into the chair, the photo slipping from her fingers and landing face up on the table. They photographed her children. They followed them. They got close enough to capture the freckles on her daughter's nose, the scuff marks on her son's sneakers, the exact moment they crossed the street together. And the message is clear: we know where they are. We know their routine. We can reach them whenever we want. Stay quiet, or next time it won't just be a photograph. But something inside Janelle shifts. The fear that's been suffocating her for weeks, the terror that kept her awake at night, the panic that made her check locks 3 times and jump at every sound. It doesn't disappear, but it transforms into something harder. Something sharper. Rage. Pure, burning, uncontrollable rage. Because whoever sent this photo made a mistake. They thought threatening her children would make her back down, make her fold, make her disappear like the other women. But they don't know Janelle Parker. They don't know what she's survived. They don't know that she's already lost too much to let them take anything else. She's done being afraid. She's done being quiet. If they want a war, she'll give them one. Janelle spends the next 3 hours documenting everything. Every phone call, every threat, every detail of her surgery, every inconsistency in the medical records. She photographs the incomplete consent form. She writes down the timeline of events, the appointment with Dr. Rhodes, the rushed surgery, the missing paperwork, the phone calls, the black SUV, the open window, the envelope with her children's photo. She records a video on her phone, speaking directly to the camera, telling her story from beginning to end, making sure that if something happens to her, the truth doesn't die with her. She saves copies to the cloud, emails them to Aisha, stores them on a flash drive she hides in her daughter's toy box where no one would think to look. And then she does the one thing they don't expect. She goes public. There's an investigative journalist in Miami named Marcus Reeves. He's built a career exposing corruption in hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, medical device manufacturers. Anywhere the healthcare system prioritizes profit over people. Janelle found his contact information on his website, and she sends him an encrypted email with a subject line that she knows will get his attention. Dr. harvests organs from black women. I have proof. He responds within 2 hours. Call me. Now. When Janelle calls, Marcus doesn't waste time with pleasantries. Tell me everything, he says. So she does. She tells him about Dr. Rhodes, about the surgery, about the missing womb, about the other women, about the offshore accounts, about the charity trips that coincide with surrogacy rings, about the threats, about the photo of her children. She talks for 40 minutes straight, and Marcus doesn't interrupt once. When she finishes, there's a long silence on the other end of the line. You still there? Janelle asks. Yeah. His voice is tight. Yeah, I'm here. Janelle, if what you're telling me is true, this is bigger than one doctor. This is a criminal enterprise operating inside a hospital. This is federal. I know. And they're threatening your kids. I know that too. Then why are you talking to me? Why aren't you going to the police? Because the police will tell me I need evidence. And the hospital destroyed the evidence. You're a journalist. You know how to find things people don't want found. You know how to make people listen. That's why I'm calling you. Another pause. Then Marcus says something that makes Janelle's heart stop. Janelle, before we go any further, I need to tell you something. Dr. Kelvin Rhodes is already under federal watch. The words don't make sense at first. What? The FBI has had him on their radar for 6 months. There was a tip from someone inside Riverside Medical Center. A nurse who noticed irregularities in surgical logs. The Bureau opened a quiet investigation, but they've been moving slowly because they're trying to map the entire network. They don't just want Rhodes. They want everyone involved. Janelle can barely breathe. So they know. They know what he's been doing. They suspect. But they don't have enough to move yet. They need victims to come forward. They need testimony. They need someone brave enough to stand up and say, This happened to me. And based on what you've just told me, you might be the key to bringing the whole thing down. Janelle closes her eyes. She thinks about the other women. The ones who settled quietly, signed NDAs, disappeared from the news within a day. The ones who were too scared to fight back, or too broken, or too convinced that no one would believe them. She thinks about the woman scheduled for surgery next week, walking into Riverside Medical Center with trust in her heart and no idea what's waiting for her. She thinks about her children, their faces in that photograph, smiling and innocent and completely unaware of the dangers surrounding them. And she makes her decision. I'll do it, she says. Whatever it takes. I'll testify. I'll go public. I'll do whatever you need me to do. But going public comes with consequences. The black SUV doesn't just park outside her building anymore. It follows her. Everywhere. To the grocery store. To her children's school. To Aisha's apartment. It's always there, always watching. A constant reminder that they know her every move. The hospital retaliates too. Within days of Janelle contacting Marcus, Riverside Medical Center files a formal complaint against her, claiming she's been harassing staff, making false accusations, and attempting to extort money from the institution. They threaten legal action. They threaten to sue her for defamation. They paint her as unstable, emotional, a woman who can't accept that a necessary medical procedure was performed and is now lashing out in misplaced anger. And then they go after Aisha. 2 weeks after she started digging into Dr. Rhodes' financial records, Aisha is suspended from her job at the Orlando hospital. The official reason is unprofessional conduct. Allegedly, she accessed patient records without authorization. But Aisha knows the truth. Someone made a call. Someone with enough power to reach across hospital systems, across counties, across the invisible network that protects its own. They can't silence Janelle, so they're punishing everyone who helps her. Janelle sits in Aisha's living room that night, watching her cousin cry for the first time in years. "I'm so sorry," Janelle whispers. "This is my fault. I dragged you into this." Aisha wipes her eyes, her jaw set. "No. They dragged me into this the moment they decided black women's bodies were for sale. I'm not backing down. Neither are you." 3 days later, Marcus calls again. His voice is urgent, almost frantic. "Janelle, you need to know something about Rhodes. The FBI just moved up their timeline. They're preparing to arrest him." "When?" "Soon. Maybe within the week. But here's the thing, Rhodes knows. Someone tipped him off. His house is empty. His bank accounts have been drained. His phone last pinged near a private airfield in Ocala yesterday afternoon. And then it went dark." Janelle's stomach drops. He's running. He's already gone. The FBI thinks he's either out of the country or about to be. They're working with Interpol, but if he made it to a country without an extradition treaty, he could disappear forever. The rage that's been building in Janelle for weeks explodes. He's running. The man who stole her womb, who violated her body, who threatened her children, who destroyed other women's lives, he's running. And he might get away with it. He might vanish into some foreign country, live out the rest of his life in comfort with his stolen money and his stolen organs and his stolen trust, while she and the other women are left with nothing but trauma and scars and the knowledge that justice will never come. But then Marcus says something else. "Janelle, there's a whistleblower. Someone inside Riverside Medical Center. They came forward yesterday with documents the hospital has been hiding for years. There's a list. A quiet list of targeted patients. Women who fit a specific profile. Young, healthy, black, low-income, single mothers. Women who wouldn't be believed if they complained. Women who could be erased. Your name is on that list. So are the names of 17 other women. 17. The number hits Janelle like a physical blow. 17 women. 17 wombs. 17 lives destroyed by a man who took an oath to do no harm and turned it into a business model. The whistleblower also provided financial records, Marcus continues. Wire transfers. Offshore accounts. Communications between Rhodes and buyers overseas. The FBI has enough now to prove he wasn't just performing illegal surgeries, he was running a trafficking operation, selling reproductive organs to the highest bidder. And the evidence suggests he wasn't the only doctor involved. There are at least 3 others in Florida alone. Janelle can't speak, can't breathe. The scope of it is too massive, too monstrous, too incomprehensible. This wasn't just about her. This was an industry, a system, a network of doctors and administrators and buyers and sellers treating women's bodies like inventory. What happens now? She finally asks. Now we go public. I'm publishing the story tomorrow. Your story, along with the whistleblower documents and the FBI investigation details. It's going to be national news. And Janelle, you're going to have to be ready for what comes next. Because once this goes live, your life will never be the same. The article publishes the next morning. By noon, it's trending on social media. By evening, it's picked up by national news outlets. By the next day, Janelle's phone won't stop ringing. Journalists, lawyers, advocacy groups, other women who think they might be victims too. The story spreads like wildfire. And suddenly Janelle Parker isn't just a single mother from Jacksonville anymore. She's a symbol, a survivor, a woman who refused to stay quiet. But the victory tastes like ash in her mouth. Because Dr. Rhodes is still gone. The FBI is still searching. And Janelle's womb is still out there somewhere, inside someone else, used by someone else, stolen from her body and sold like a commodity. She sits on her couch one night, her children asleep in their rooms, and lets herself grieve. Not just for the womb she lost, but for the trust that was shattered, for the innocence that was stolen, for the version of herself that walked into Riverside Medical Center believing doctors saved lives instead of destroying them. She cries until there are no tears left, until her throat is raw and her chest aches, and she's empty in a way that has nothing to do with surgery. But then her daughter wanders into the living room, rubbing her eyes, asking why mommy is crying. And Janelle pulls her close, holds her tight, and realizes something crucial. She's still here. She survived. She fought back when they expected her to fold. She exposed a system that thrived on silence. And because of her, other women won't walk into that same trap. Because of her, Dr. Rhodes will never practice medicine again, even if he's never caught. Because of her, change is coming. It's not enough. It will never be enough. But it's something. The FBI eventually confirms that Dr. Kelvin Rhodes fled to a country without an extradition treaty. He's gone free, living somewhere under a new name with his stolen money and his stolen organs and his stolen trust. He'll never face trial. He'll never see the inside of a prison cell. He'll never have to answer for the 17 women whose bodies he violated, whose lives he destroyed, whose trust he exploited. But he'll also never practice medicine again. Never deliver another baby. Never sit across from another patient and smile that reassuring smile while planning their destruction. His name is ruined. His reputation is destroyed. And every day for the rest of his life, he'll know that someone out there is looking for him. Janelle doesn't know if that's justice. She doesn't know if anything could be justice after what was taken from her. But she knows one thing. She refused to let it end with her silence. She refused to be erased. She refused to let them win. Was Dr. Kelvin Rhodes a monster hiding in plain sight, or was he a doctor shaped by a corrupt system that valued profit over people, that treated Black women's bodies as resources to be exploited, that built its success on the silence of the vulnerable? Tell me what you think. Because stories like Janelle's are still happening right now, in hospitals you trust, by doctors you know. Subscribe so you never miss the warning signs again.